Living Local Carolina with Katie Turner. Local trends, shopping, dining, and more. This is Living Local Carolina.
The following portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Beach Injury Lawyers. Well, welcome back to Living Local Carolina, everyone. I'm so excited to be back with my friends from Beach Injury Lawyers, Will and Greg. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I feel like it's been a minute.
It has.
It has been a minute.
We're both getting old, and we both have our various ailments, for the last month. So we're just glad to be sitting up here.
We're glad to be sitting here chatting. What are we going to be talking about today?
He's mad.
This really is. Before the cameras rolled, I had said that this is my opportunity to just blow off steam for probably like the last 6 or 7 months. We're going to talk about big insurance companies and bad faith practices.
Okay.
So it's funny, my wife, last night we were having dinner, and she looks at me and she goes, "Are you sure you want to keep doing what you're doing? Because insurance companies are going to put you in the grave." And I laughed and I said, "You know what? You're probably right." But while it was funny, you reach a certain point that you get very frustrated and you get tired of dealing with what you consider to be just outright bad faith practices by big insurance companies. So, when you look at big insurance companies, they're some of the most profitable businesses in the world. State Farm's net worth is $134 billion, Progressive $73 billion, Allstate worth is $48 billion, in USAA $29 billion. So I picked those four because, in our practice, our personal injury practice, those are the companies that we see, quite a bit. So how do insurance companies make all this money? Well, obviously they pay out a whole lot less than they bring in. So what happens is State Farm, for instance, for 2023 they brought in premiums totaling $87 billion. Okay. So what they do is they take the $87 billion, they invest it in interest-generating assets, stocks, bonds, whatever. But what they also do is they regularly deny and delay the payment of legitimate claims. Now, somebody who, let's say it's a $20,000 claim. That might not seem like a lot of money, but you take one claim, multiply that by a very large number, they are making so much money by denying and delaying the payment of claims. So generally what happens with a personal injury claim is once the client has reached maximum medical improvement, we'll submit a settlement demand. And a settled demand is simply a document that describes what happened to the client, the medical treatment they received, whether they have permanent injuries, their medical bills, their lost wages. So once you send that in, the hope is that you're going to get something that's fair. And that simply doesn't happen. So we're going to talk about some examples today. And, examples of, while you expect that the insurance company is going to act in bad faith, that they don't. So we'll start with one, a small case. And then in the other segments, we'll talk a little bit more about additional cases. So a family with a mother and 2 children. They're involved in a very, very bad automobile accident case. So totals the car. Fortunately for them, they all went to the emergency room, to one of the local ERs here. And all of them have, probably $6,000 or $7,000 in medical bills. And the top offer for the insurance company was $1,000. Now, and the question is that just? Is that reasonable? It absolutely is not. And that's the reason why, frankly, we do what we do, is to fight on behalf of the people that are being treated unfairly.
All right, so we're going to put a pin in that real quick. We're going to talk more about this when we get back from the break, so stick with us, guys. We'll be right back. Well, thanks for sticking with us here on Living Local Carolina. We've been talking about insurance companies with the Beach Injury Lawyers, and they've got a lot to say. I'm going to go ahead and give y'all the floor again.
I'm on a roll here. So, in the last segment, we gave just a small example, but let's look at a larger case. All right, there's a gentleman who lives here in Horry County. He is involved in a very, very bad automobile collision. His car rolled over multiple times. He has been to, of course, hospitals, emergency rooms, pain management, physicians, you name it. So his medical bills are right now between $80,000 and $90,000. He also has been unable to work going on 2 years. So he has tremendous lost wages. But not only does he have lost wages, but his ability to work has been severely compromised. In fact, there's a vocational assessor that said he can't work due to his severe back injuries. So when you present the case to State Farm, and that's the carrier that we were working with, right? His medical bills, loss of earning capacity, his loss of personal services, which is his inability to do things around the house, was about $3.1 million. The insurance company comes back and offers less than his medical bills.
Wow.
And that was the top offer. So it frustrates you. The client, of course, becomes frustrated because they believe, that they're going to be treated like a good neighbor, that, they're going to be in good hands. And I assure you, that is not the case. I'm going to give you another example. 53-year-old female, again, lives in Horry County. She's involved in a rear-end collision case. Liability's clear. She has between $23,000 and $24,000 in medical bills. That's emergency room, doctors, orthopedist. And she is offered $8,000. Now, why did they offer $8,000? Because the medical bills, according to the insurance company, were not reasonable and customary. That is something you hear a lot from the insurance companies. It's just a way for them to not pay a legitimate claim. So they will say, no, these bills that are $24,000, they really should have only been $5,000. So of course your response is, okay, send me proof of that. Give me some evidence that that's not reasonable, that it's not customary. Give me some evidence, some proof, whatever it is that you're going to do. And of course, they're never going to give it to you because it's simply a policy. It's an in-house policy of theirs to slash medical bills regardless of what amount is owed.
But what they will say is that's what Medicare would have paid. Our lady is not on Medicare.
Yeah. Yeah, but literally they'll say, no, we'll pay
Medicare rates.
Yeah, we'll pay Medicare rates. And of course the question, well, wait a minute. Our client's not on Medicare. Therefore, they're not going to accept a payment the same or similar to what Medicare would have paid. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's their policy, is that they're only going to pay the bare minimum and they're going to do everything they can to slash your medical bills. When, people without health insurance, they may owe $25,000 in medical bills. Well, you can negotiate some of that down, but the medical providers, they're a business just like anybody else, and they're going to expect payment. But unfortunately, the insurance companies, they're not going to do it. They're simply not going to pay what would be considered a fair amount
Until a lawsuit.
That was my question, was what do you do?
Well, you file a ton of lawsuits, and that's what we're doing is, we're filing lawsuits. So you want to go in, you want to take the deposition of the at-fault party. You want to ask them, don't you think if you were injured by someone else's negligence, that your medical bills would be paid? And generally the person will say, well, yes. And then you can ask, don't you think this is unfair that your insurance company has taken this position? And generally, sometimes you'll get absolutely, it is unfair. And it is unfair. But again, that's what the court system's for.
All right, well, we're going to talk more about this when we get back from the break, including some other things that you can do if this happens to you. So stick with us. Well, guys, thanks for sticking with us here on Living Local Carolina. I've been hanging out with the beach injury lawyers. Greg's been fired up. We've been talking about insurance companies and bad faith claims, but we haven't really talked yet about what exactly you do if you're in a situation like this. But take it away.
And you're right. I have been a little dark and gloomy on the last two segments. So what's the good news? The good news is that, beach injury lawyers, and again, there's other great personal injury law firms in Horry County, but, beach injury lawyers, this is what we do, is that we take on big insurance companies. We're not going to do something that we consider to be unfair, and we're going to tell our clients, don't do it. Don't do it. If you will hang in there with us, let us do our job. I'm going on, gosh, I've been practicing since 1996. You've been practicing since
06.
Yeah, since 06. So, let our experience go to work for you. And let's fight the big insurance company. Let's fight them. Let's take it to court. Let's try this case. You don't see many trials. And the reason is mediation. Alternative dispute resolution has really taken a big chunk out of courtroom experience, especially for younger lawyers. So generally the cases will settle in mediation. But in order to pursue or to try to get justice on behalf of the clients, you could talk about, like Tiger River, excess verdicts.
So this has become a problem, and the courts have addressed it. Actually, it addressed it back in 1933. The Tiger River case, Tiger River Pine Company, which is up in Union. I'm not going to bore you with details of the case. Very old case, but the law has stood, and the law of it says, if you don't settle for the policy limits that you have, and it's reasonable to do so, then you've acted in bad faith. And so we can go and get an excess verdict. So if you have one of the examples I think Greg used, let's say the $80,000 in medicals plus it ends up being $3.2 million total. Let's say the policy limits in that case is $100,000 and they won't pay it. I think it may be more in this case, but let's just say that's an example. And we go and we get a verdict for $3.2 million. Well, what do we do with the excess verdict? We try to show that it was bad faith on part of the insurance company and collect that money.
Does this happen often? You were saying this was happening more in the last year, but I was going to ask, has this historically happened?
No, the plaintiff's bar has a statewide listserv, emails. And so, most of the plaintiff's lawyers you will see posting messages, and it's a consistent message, is, we can't just let insurance companies do this to our clients. We've got to take these things to court. We got to try these cases. And, again, if you're going to hire a personal injury lawyer, the one thing that you definitely want to do is make sure that the person can try a case. Make sure that the person has experience in going up against the big insurance companies. Because if you haven't, or if it's a firm that they basically just settle cases, well, what are they going to do when all of a sudden the insurance company treats you unfairly and you got to have somebody to come in to try the case? So that's one of the things that you want to look for in a personal injury lawyer is trial experience. Because believe it or not, we still do try cases.
And you love to try cases.
I do love to try cases.
They're fired up when they come in here and they want a case.
I love it. It's interesting. You stand up and you're very, you're nervous. I've done it, 100-something times, but, to try a case to verdict. But, you get up, you're nervous, but it's that nervous energy. But, this is your chance. You've been working on this case for sometimes 2 and 3 years, and now's the time to shine. Now's the time to represent your client, put your best foot forward, and show the men and women on the jury that you mean business, and it was unfair. I do. I absolutely
He means
love it.
business. Now, if someone else is watching this and they mean business, how can they get in contact with you guys?
Sure. Phone number is 843-357-4111.
On the web, www.beachinjurylawyers.com.
The preceding portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Beach Injury Lawyers.